She was just the housemaid, until the morning she found him broken on the floor. The last traces of night still clung to the air when Laura slipped through the side gate of the estate. Dew clung to the garden stones, and the scent of wet leaves rose from the ground, one of those scents that made her breathe slower, as if the world, for a few quiet moments, had stopped demanding anything from her. She adjusted the strap of her bag, climbed the 3 steps leading to the kitchen entrance and pushed the door open. 6:20 a.m. Too early for anyone else in the house to be awake, too early even for her, but sleep had abandoned her hours before, leaving behind a strange unease she couldn't shake, as if the entire mansion had held its breath while she slept in the small back room reserved for the staff. The kitchen was oddly still. Even the dripping faucet seemed restrained, as if careful not to disturb the silence. She set her bag on a chair, tied her hair back, and mentally walked through the tasks ahead. The family's laundry waiting in the basket, the office Helena, Mr. Adrian's wife, had left in disarray after another argument, the dining room that was always used but never actually cleaned before they left it. Routine, predictable, control. Until she noticed the one detail that did not belong. The office door was slightly open. Laura stopped immediately. That door was never open this early. Adrian guarded his privacy like someone protecting what little stability he had left, disciplined, quiet, always composed. At this hour, he should have been upstairs reading reports or sipping coffee on the terrace. Not here, not like this. Laura approached the door slowly. The hallway sconces threw long shadows across the wooden floor, and a faint golden light seeped from the crack between the door and its frame. She laid her hand on the cool wood. Hesitated, pushed. What she saw made her heart stumble. Adrian was on the floor, sitting against the file cabinet, dress shirt partly unbuttoned, face drained of color. In his hand, he held something, a silver necklace, the same one Laura had seen countless times, framed in the hallway photograph. The one Helena used to say she never took off because it meant something. And there it was, in his hands, as if it had been ripped away. But what struck Laura most wasn't the necklace. It was the expression on his face, not anger, not shock, but devastation. A devastation so quiet it felt physical, as if the weight of it pressed against the very air in the room. His usually sharp, composed eyes were red, as if he had been awake far too long. He lifted his gaze slowly, like someone forcing himself back into the world. "I knew I shouldn't have left that door open," he murmured, voice low, tired. Laura froze, uncertain whether she should step inside, step back, or pretend she had seen nothing. Her instinct, her lifelong instinct, was to disappear, to be invisible, to do her work and take up no space at all. But something anchored her in place. Maybe it was the way the necklace trembled in his hand, maybe the way his breath faltered. Maybe the certainty that Adrian, in that moment, didn't want to be seen, but needed someone there anyway. "Mr. Adrian," she whispered, "do you want me to call someone?" He shook his head once, gripping the necklace tighter. "No, don't call anyone." The firmness of the words contradicted everything else in him. Laura stepped closer. The wooden floor creaked, and Adrian closed his eyes briefly, as if even the smallest movement around him was too much to bear. "I know you saw something," he said, opening his eyes again, meeting hers. "Just don't say anything yet." Laura's pulse quickened. "Saw what? What does he think I know?" Before she could ask, something tugged at her awareness, something she had forgotten in the rush of the moment. Her pocket was heavier. The corner of a folded slip of paper peeked out. The paper she had found that morning in Helena's closet, tucked where it shouldn't be. A paper she had taken on impulse, unsure if she should give it to him or hide it forever. Instinctively, she pressed her hand over her pocket, concealing it. "I don't know exactly what you mean," she said carefully. "Yes, you do," Adrian replied, not accusingly but with a tired resignation that hurt more than anger could. "You saw something, and I'm not ready to hear it. Not yet." He exhaled, long and uneven. The necklace slipped from his fingers and hit his knee. The silence that followed was thick, almost alive. Laura felt she shouldn't be in that room, but she also felt that if she left, something inside him would collapse entirely. She stepped closer. "Do you want some water?" she offered softly. Maybe a glass?" "No." His eyes drifted somewhere far away. "I want to understand when I lost control of my own house." It wasn't a question. It wasn't even directed at her. But he looked at her as if she were the only person who could hold that moment with him. And it was then, in the dim light of the office, that Laura saw something she had never seen in him. Real vulnerability. Not the performative kind some men use to solicit comfort, but the raw, unguarded vulnerability of someone who has been breaking for far too long and is finally too tired to hide it. The folded paper in her pocket felt hot against her skin. Dangerous. Alive. She didn't know if giving it to him now would help him or destroy him. "I can straighten the room," she said quietly. "Open the windows, bring some order back, or make coffee if that helps." He shook his head slowly. "Stay," he said, not looking at her. "Just don't go yet." Laura froze. Stay. One word. But enough to fracture the invisible line between them. Enough to change the air. Enough to shift something she didn't dare name. The light touched only half his face. The other half remained in shadow, just like his house, his marriage, and the truth she carried in her pocket. Laura pulled a chair closer and sat. Not too near, not too far. She didn't ask anything, didn't push, didn't fill the silence. She simply stayed. And that alone was enough to make Adrian unravel. He tilted his head down, as if the last support beam inside him had finally given way. The necklace slipped from his fingers and clattered to the floor. Laura watched it fall. And she knew, absolutely, irrevocably, that nothing inside that house would be the same after this morning. After a long moment, Adrian spoke again, voice rasped and drained. "Sometimes, Laura, the truth shows up exactly when we're least capable of holding it." She tightened her fingers around her pocket, feeling the outline of the paper, and for the first time she understood. It wasn't just his truth she was carrying, it was hers as well. The morning moved strangely, as if the entire house were caught in a different kind of time. After leaving Adrian in the office, Laura walked back toward the kitchen, still feeling that tight pressure in her chest, a mix of worry and something she refused to name. The cold overhead lights washed the countertops in a pale glow as she prepared the coffee. The smell of freshly ground beans filled the room, but it didn't bring the usual comfort. Something hung in the air, an invisible vibration that pulsed through the mansion's walls. She placed the thermos on the tray, along with sugar, sweetener, and the white porcelain cup Adrian preferred. She reached for a napkin, but froze halfway there. Her hand was trembling. She slowly curled her fingers to hide it, steadied her breath and finished assembling the tray. When she approached the office, she paused, hearing his breathing through the door. Not heavy, but uneven, like someone trying to pull their thoughts back into place. She knocked softly. "Come in," he said, voice low. Adrian was standing now, hands braced against the desk. The thin morning light from the window carved his face in halves, one lit, one shadowed, revealing exhaustion he no longer seemed able to hide. The necklace was gone. He must have put it away quickly, or simply couldn't stand seeing it anymore. Laura set the tray on the small side table. "I made your coffee just the way you like it," she said, keeping her voice steady. "Thank you," he murmured, though he didn't touch the cup. A few seconds passed before he lifted his eyes to hers. "You look unsettled." Not an accusation, an honest observation. "Just tired. I started early," she answered, gaze drifting away. He nodded, though she could tell he didn't fully believe her, and perhaps she didn't fully believe herself either. Adrian exhaled slowly, rubbing the back of his neck. "Today is going to be difficult." The pause in the middle said more than the words did. Laura knew exactly what he meant. Helena would wake up soon, and when she woke up in a bad mood, the whole house paid for it. Laura nodded lightly and left the office. As she climbed the stairs, The slip of paper in her pocket brushed against her side. It felt hot, as if every step pressed a little more weight against the decision she would eventually have to make. Give it to him? Hide it forever? Pretend it meant nothing? The long staircase amplified her thoughts. Every step held a question, every breath a memory. And then she found herself remembering where she had come from, a reality far removed from this one. Laura didn't talk about her past. Silence protected her more efficiently than any explanation, but silence didn't erase what had happened. Before working in this house, she had survived something that nearly hollowed her out. A relationship that began as shelter and ended as confinement. The kind of man who said, "I'm doing this for you," when he really meant, "I'm doing this to you." It took her years to understand it had never been love. And when she finally escaped, slipping out in the quiet of a night while he slept, she made herself a promise. Never again would she get close to someone who held too much power over her. Maybe that was why this house exhausted her the way it did. Power lived here. Polished, polite, well-dressed, but still power. And then there was Adrian, a man she should never see as anything more than her employer. But that morning, sitting on the floor with a necklace in his hand and devastation carved into his face, he had looked painfully human. Laura pressed her lips together, pushing the thought away. When she reached the couple's bedroom, the door was cracked open. She heard footsteps inside the walk-in closet. Helena was talking to herself again. She always did when she stood in front of the mirror, repeating words that made sense only to her. "I don't need this. I don't need this," she whispered, voice tight with suppressed anger. Laura knocked gently. "Mrs. Helena, may I come in?" Helena emerged from the closet with a sharp, abrupt movement. Her hair was a mess, her makeup smudged, and irritation twisted her features. "You're here too early," she snapped. "Sorry, Mom. I thought it would help to start organizing." "You don't get to decide what helps me," Helena cut back, her tone acidic. Laura held her expression still, but it was impossible not to feel that Helena sensed something off. There was a different tension in her, one that only appeared on the days she was hiding something. "Take those clothes away," Helena ordered, pointing at the pile on the bed, "and be careful with my jewelry. I don't want anything disappearing." Laura swallowed the response rising in her throat. "I've never touched anything of yours." But she said nothing. She had learned that some people saw replies not as answers, but as invitations to war. As she gathered the clothes, Laura felt Helena's gaze on her, watching every movement, analyzing, searching for a crack. Laura kept her composure immaculate, but then Helena said something that sliced through the air. "Adrian was up early. You saw him, didn't you?" Laura almost dropped a blouse. Helena noticed. The wife's expression shifted, and a slow, dangerous smile curled on her lips. "I knew it. He saw you too, didn't he? What were you two talking about so early, Laura forced her breath to stay calm. "I only took him his coffee, Mom." "Liar." Helena's voice was a sharp whisper. "He doesn't drink coffee before 7. Are you lying to me, Laura?" Laura understood the tone perfectly. Helena wasn't seeking truth. She was looking for fear. And silence sometimes was louder than words, so Laura didn't reply. The quiet seemed to provoke Helena further. "I'll warn you only once," she said, each word coated in threat. "Do not involve yourself in my matters, and stay out of my marriage." Laura lowered her head in respect, but inside her chest something shifted. Not fear, but a discomfort that pushed her toward a truth she didn't want to face. Because she already was involved. And Helena knew it. When the room was finally clean, Laura stepped into the hallway and leaned against the wall. She pulled the paper from her pocket slowly, as if touching something dangerous. Just a receipt. A hotel receipt. Recent date. A name handwritten at the bottom. Not Adrian's name, not Helena's. Another man's. A name Laura had heard Helena whisper to on the phone before, too softly, too sweetly, too intimately to be innocent. Laura slipped the receipt back into her pocket. And she understood, with a weight that settled heavily inside her, that whatever had broken inside Adrian that morning was only the beginning. She didn't know whether Helena suspected anything. She didn't know if Adrian had seen something more. She didn't know whether she should reveal the receipt or bury it forever, but she did know one thing with painful clarity. This house was about to fall apart. And for reasons she still didn't dare unravel, a part of her wanted to shield Adrian from the wreckage, not out of duty, not out of fear, but out of something forming quietly, dangerously between them, something without a name, yet something unmistakable. By the time she returned downstairs, the morning light had shifted entirely. Adrian stood near the kitchen door, hands in his pockets, an expression caught between hesitation and resolve. When he saw her, he straightened. "I need to talk to you," he said, voice steady. Laura stopped mid-step. Her heart hit a faster rhythm, and she knew, without him needing to say another word, whatever came next would change everything between them. The kitchen was silent when Adrian closed the door behind him. Laura set the dish towel down slowly, trying to steady her breathing. He rarely came down at this hour, rarely sought conversation, and never, absolutely never, asked to speak with her alone. Adrian stopped at a distance that felt deliberately measured, as if he wasn't sure what counted as appropriate proximity between employer and housemaid. His hands stayed buried in his pockets, a controlled posture that seemed to be holding up the rest of him. "Laura," he began, and just the sound of her name in his voice made her stomach tighten. "I need to understand a few things, things that slipped out of my control." It struck her how carefully he'd chosen every word, as if each one, pulled from the wrong thread, could unravel the entire fabric of the house. "What would you like to know, sir?" she asked, steady enough to hide the storm inside her. Adrian glanced around the kitchen, searching for something to anchor his gaze before finally forcing himself to meet hers. "For the first time in months," he said slowly, "I felt like someone actually saw me." He drew in a breath, quiet but weighted. "I can't explain it, but when you walked into the office this morning, He cut himself off as if the rest of the sentence was too heavy to speak. Laura wasn't sure whether it was a confession, a release, or simply something that had been trapped inside him for far too long. "I know it's unfair to put this in your hands," he continued, "but I realized you know more than you're saying." The slip of paper in her pocket suddenly felt heavier. She pressed her fingers against the fabric, trying to calm the tension rising through her. "I don't know if you're right," she said carefully, choosing each word as if stepping through a minefield. "Yes, you do," he replied, not harsh, not accusing, quiet, certain. "You saw something, or found something, or heard something, and I need you to be honest with me." The word honest struck the air sharply, not like a threat, but like a plea, and that was harder to refuse. Laura lowered her gaze briefly. The marble floor felt colder than usual, almost hostile. She wanted to find an answer that didn't open too many doors, didn't expose her, didn't place her between fire and stone. But she couldn't. "I found a piece of paper," she admitted softly. "Something that wasn't where it should have been." Adrian didn't move, but something in him tightened, the way a body braces before impact. "What paper?" he asked. Laura pulled the receipt from her pocket with care, as if she were pulling out a truth that had been burning inside her. She extended it to him. Adrian took it slowly, unfolded it, read, and something in his face broke, subtle, contained, but unmistakable. And she saw it. She always saw. Adrian closed his eyes for a long, weighty second, the kind of silence that doesn't step, but falls. When he opened them again, there was no confusion left, no denial, no doubt, only certainty and pain. "Helena was here yesterday afternoon," he said, voice dragging. "Said she had a meeting, said she'd be back soon." He lifted the receipt slightly. "Never imagined this was where she went." Laura felt the air leave her lungs. It wasn't shock. She knew. He knew. The whole house knew. But seeing the truth printed on cheap hotel paper with a name that wasn't his was a different kind of wound. "I didn't know if I should give it to you," she confessed. "I didn't want to cause trouble or interfere." Adrian drew a deep, steadying breath, as if the ground beneath him was shifting. "The truth doesn't cause trouble," he said quietly. Lies do. Laura held her silence. It didn't feel like he was talking only about his marriage. The words echoed deeper, layers he hadn't even realized he touched. He leaned forward slightly, resting a hand on the counter. Not threatening, tired. As if holding himself up required more strength than he currently had. How long have you suspected? He asked. I didn't suspect anything, she answered too quickly. I just found the paper by accident. Adrian studied her face carefully, searching for something beneath the surface, but Laura didn't look away. Finally, he exhaled and nodded. Thank you for showing me, he said. There was sincerity in it, unexpected, disarming sincerity. Adrian had always been polite, but never vulnerable, never open. And yet here he was, stripped of the armor he carried through the house every day. I still don't know how I'll deal with this, he admitted, but I know I don't want you leaving this house, not now. The words ran through her like heat, sharp, immediate, confusing. I don't plan on leaving, she said quietly. He nodded, though his eyes held something else, something unsaid, something he wasn't ready to name or couldn't. Before either of them could speak again, footsteps echoed down the hallway. Helena appeared in the doorway, brows raised, silk robe tied carelessly around her, looking as though she'd woken in the middle of a nightmare. So this is where you are, she said, eyes locked on Adrian, refusing to even acknowledge Laura. Adrian straightened. The receipt was still in his hand. Helena saw it, and everything in her shifted, her posture, her expression, her tone. A sharp, almost mocking smile pulled at her lips. Going through my things now? She asked. Adrian's gaze didn't waver. Do you want to explain this? He asked, holding the paper out. Helena didn't look at it. She looked at Laura, only at Laura. You, she said, the words slicing through the air like a blade. Of course it's you. The little housemaid always shows up where she doesn't belong, doesn't she? Laura opened her mouth to answer, but Adrian spoke first. Laura has nothing to do with this. Helena let out a low, bitter laugh. No? She found something in my closet and ran to deliver it to you. How convenient. She stepped closer, voice sharpening. It must be hard to resist, isn't it? Proving I'm the villain must have been a gift for you. Enough, Adrian said, firm but calm. Helena didn't stop. How long will it take for you to understand, Adrian, that girls like her live off attention? You show them an ounce of kindness and they confuse it. They start thinking they have a place here. Laura didn't move. Not because any of it felt true, none of it did, but because those words awakened something old inside her, something she had buried long ago. Adrian saw it. He stepped forward, placing himself between them. You lost the right to talk about kindness, he said, voice contained but cutting. And you lost the right to talk about trust. Helena narrowed her eyes. So you're taking her side instead of mine? It's not about taking her side, Adrian replied. It's about you finally stopping the lies. Helena inhaled sharply but didn't back down. If you don't throw this woman out of the house today, Adrian, she said, voice low, icy, I will personally make sure whatever is left of your reputation collapses. Adrian didn't blink. You don't decide who stays or leaves this house. Helena turned to Laura with a look meant to wound. Then she walked out, her heels striking the floor with violent precision. Silence spread through the kitchen, sharp, metallic. Adrian braced himself against the counter again, breathing slowly. Laura stayed still, resisting the tremor threatening her hands. I'm sorry about her, he said quietly. You don't have to apologize, Laura replied. I'm used to it. He lifted his gaze at that, startled by how honest she was. I'd prefer you weren't. A pause followed. Not long, not awkward. Just heavy. Laura, he said softly, thank you for showing me this, and for not turning your back when you found me this morning. She hesitated, then answered, I wouldn't. Adrian held her gaze for longer than he should have, a stretch of time filled with unspoken questions, restrained closeness, and quiet truths neither dared name. Finally, he said it. I trust you more than anyone in this house." And in that moment, the first real bond formed, not because of betrayal, not because of tragedy, but because he offered her trust, and she, despite everything inside her warning otherwise, accepted it. Knowing full well it might be the beginning of something as dangerous as it was inevitable, afternoon settled slowly over the mansion, as if the day itself was stalling, waiting to witness what it knew was coming. After the confrontation in the kitchen, Helena vanished somewhere inside the house, and even without seeing her, Laura could feel the wife's presence stalking the hallways, a restless shadow watching everything from a distance. Adrian had gone back upstairs to the office. He'd closed the door gently, and since then there had been no sound from behind it. Laura stayed with her work, clinging to the only thing she truly knew: routine, movement, noise, order. But her mind kept drifting back to that moment in the morning, to the look in his eyes, to the way he'd said he trusted her. Too soon to trust, too dangerous to trust. And yet, she felt the weight of that sentence as if it had been written directly onto her skin. When the rooms were done, Laura returned to the kitchen to prepare dinner. The house was unnervingly quiet for that hour. Not even the distant hum of pipes whispered through the walls. The mansion felt like it was holding its breath. She began chopping vegetables in practiced, controlled strokes. The rhythmic sound of the knife became its own thin soundtrack until she felt someone standing in the doorway. A glance told her everything. Adrian. His sleeves were rolled up, his tie loose, his face still tense but no longer shattered like that morning. He entered slowly, as if stepping into a room he wasn't sure he was allowed to exist in anymore. "Starting dinner early?" he asked, trying to sound casual, as if normalcy were a rope he could still pull. Laura only nodded. "It's early, but I thought it might be—" She searched for a neutral word. "But better this way." Adrian walked in, took a glass from the cupboard, filled it with water. But he didn't drink it. He held it with both hands like a man who needed something to anchor himself. "We need to talk about earlier," he said. "But not yet. I'm not ready." Laura kept chopping, though her breath faltered for a moment. "You don't owe me explanations," she said softly. "I only did what I thought was right." Something shifted in him. He looked at her with an expression that didn't belong to a man speaking to someone he employed. No distance, no coldness, just humanity. A kind she wasn't used to receiving. He paced a little, trying to bleed his own restlessness into the room. "No one has done what's right in this house for a long time," he murmured. Laura felt a thin shiver crawl down her spine. "Maybe," she whispered, "someone just needs to start." He froze, turned, looked at her with a quiet intensity she wasn't prepared for. "Do you understand what you're saying?" Not angry, just stunned. "I understand enough," she replied. "I know your marriage has been falling apart for a long time. I know I have nothing to do with it. I know I'm only doing my job, and I know that today you needed someone." The silence that followed felt heavy enough to bend the air. When he finally spoke, his voice came low. "I don't know what I needed today. I only know you were there." He drew a breath. "And that surprised me." Laura returned her attention to the cutting board, but her knife no longer kept the same steady rhythm. "Being surprised doesn't mean—" She hesitated, crossing into a space that isn't mine. "No," he said quietly. "But it means you notice things, more than anyone who's ever worked in this house." Her hands stopped mid-air, and for the first time, she felt a vulnerability that wasn't hers. It was his. He was about to say something else, something she wasn't sure either of them was ready for, but footsteps interrupted him. Helena, descending the stairs. They stepped away from each other instantly, as if caught in a crime that hadn't happened, as if proximity alone were enough to condemn. Helena entered with her spine straight and her gaze icy. "Will dinner take long?" she asked, ignoring Laura completely. "Not long, ma'am," Laura answered. Helena scrolled through her phone, tense behind the mask of superiority. "I'm going out tonight. I don't need dinner." She paused, choosing her words the way one chooses a weapon. Adrian, you're invited as well. I don't think it's appropriate for us to stay closed in here. People talk. Adrian didn't answer right away. Laura kept her eyes down. The tension thickened. I'm not going out, he said finally. Not tonight. Helena snapped her gaze up, irritated. You're staying here? Her eyes flicked to Laura. Here? After everything? Yes, Adrian said. Here. Helena clenched her jaw, smiled tightly, and delivered her verdict. Fine. Stay then, both of you. She walked out, her perfume lingering behind like a warning. When the sound of her heels disappeared, Adrian let out a long breath, bracing himself on the counter. She thinks there's something between us, he said quietly. Laura turned slowly. And is there? She asked, before she could stop herself. The question hung in the air, fragile and explosive. Adrian didn't answer at once. He rubbed a hand over his face, swallowed, thought, hesitated, and finally whispered, I don't know. I don't either, she replied. But they both knew. They had known since the moment he lifted his devastated eyes to hers in the office, since the moment she didn't walk away, since the moment he asked her to stay. Something had been forming in the silence, something too dangerous to name. They moved through dinner like two people trying to pretend nothing was changing, while everything was. When she set the plate in front of him, he watched her with a depth that wasn't desire, not exactly. Something more fragile, more human. An unspoken bond, born before either of them realized. Sit, he said quietly. She froze. Here, she whispered. Here, he repeated, gesturing to the chair beside him. The request was wrong in every conceivable way. Inappropriate, irresponsible, dangerous. And yet, Laura felt something inside her lean toward him, not out of longing, not consciously, but out of a need to understand what was happening between them. She sat. He didn't eat. She didn't speak. They sat in silence, breathing truths they weren't ready to say. Things won't get better, Adrian murmured. Not anytime soon. I know, Laura said. He looked at her quickly, as if surprised she wasn't offering comfort or denial or false hope, but she wasn't here to lie. He rubbed his temple, exhausted. I get the feeling you're the only honest person in this house. And that scares me more than it should. Her throat tightened. He turned to her slowly, eyes meeting hers. I shouldn't trust you this much, he whispered. No, you shouldn't, she answered. But I do. No shouting, no theatrics, just truth, raw, quiet, and real. And she knew truths like that were the beginning of everything that shouldn't exist. Later, after he returned to the office, Laura washed the dishes, using the sound of running water to steady herself. Night had fallen by the time she walked toward the staff quarters, but a faint light from the office caught her attention. The door was slightly open. Again, and she should have kept walking. She meant to. But the sound stopped her. He was crying. Not loudly. Not desperately. A quiet, broken crying, the kind that escapes only when a person has run out of strength to hide it. Laura stood at the door, unable to step inside, and unable to walk away. And in that moment, just that moment, she understood something that would change everything. She wasn't just taking care of the house anymore, she was taking care of him, and there was no return from that. She knocked gently. Adrian lifted his head quickly, wiping his eyes as if erasing the evidence of his own breaking. Do you need anything? Laura asked softly. He opened his mouth, ready to say no, but he didn't. He hesitated, just for a second, but it was enough. Just stay a little, he whispered, and for the second time that day she stayed, and it was the most dangerous choice she could have made. Night settled over the mansion in a strange, heavy way. The rooms felt larger, the shadows longer, the silence more awake than usual. Laura sat on the small sofa in the office while Adrian stood facing the window, staring into the dark as if the world outside might offer him a truth he couldn't find in himself. He didn't speak, but his breathing did. Laura watched the tense line of his shoulders, tight, rigid, carrying more than any human body should bear. She kept her hands clasped in her lap, fighting the sudden urge to go to him. That impulse frightened her. It created a conflict she hadn't known before. And yet the more she tried to push the feeling away, the more insistently it returned. "I don't know when it started," Adrian said at last, still looking outside. "Maybe long before I ever noticed." The words lingered, carried by the faint sound of rain tapping against the glass. "When you say it," Laura began cautiously, "you mean the affair?" Adrian drew in a long breath. "No," he said quietly. "I mean me." Laura straightened slowly, the shift in him so palpable it moved the air. When he finally turned around, his expression was a mix of exhaustion, disbelief, and a kind of emotional disorientation she had never seen in him. The soft glow of the lamp carved shadows across his features, shadows that revealed more than they hid. "You know," he murmured, taking a few steps closer, "infidelity doesn't always happen suddenly. It begins in the spaces two people stop looking at each other, in conversations that shrink, then hollow out." Laura listened as though every word were being placed carefully between them, like tiles in a mosaic that could either connect them or fracture them completely. "I spent months trying to figure out the exact moment He paused, searching for the truth in himself. "Lost my wife, or she lost me. But today, seeing this," he lifted the receipt, "I realized it never mattered how it began. It mattered when it ended." The sentence wounded him on its way out. Laura saw it. "Sir," she began, but he raised a hand. Not to command, but to hold himself together. "I don't want formality right now," he said quietly. "Please, Adrian is enough." Laura blinked, caught off guard. He had never made a request like that. She hesitated for a few seconds, then nodded. "All right, Adrian." He looked away for a moment, as if hearing his own name from her unsettled him more than he expected. He moved closer to the desk, letting the receipt fall onto the surface. "I don't know how long this has been happening," he said, staring at the paper with equal parts disgust and resignation. "But I know how it started. She changed, became distant, irritated. Elsewhere, I thought it was work, pressure." He released a short, painful laugh. "Or I thought it was my fault. I always think it's my fault." A deep ache pressed into Laura's chest. She wanted to tell him that sometimes there are no villains, that love unravels quietly, without anyone meaning for it to, that not everything breaks because someone failed. But she didn't. She wouldn't fill his silence with words that didn't belong to her. "I tried," Adrian said. "Tried talking. Tried getting close again. But she..." He inhaled. "She was somewhere else, even when she stood right next to me." "She didn't want to be found," Laura said gently. He lifted his gaze, surprised by the accuracy of her words. "No, she didn't." He raked a hand through his hair, exhausted. "And I kept blaming myself, kept hoping it was a phase. A long one, but still a phase." Laura stayed quiet, not because she lacked words, but because some truths are too heavy to cushion. He walked to the bookshelf, running his fingers along the spines without seeing them. The gesture had no purpose, only a need to stay upright. "You think I didn't notice," he said, still turned away. "Think I didn't feel the coldness, the excuses, the way her eyes stopped meeting mine? I noticed, I just didn't want to believe it." A chill moved through Laura, not because he was complaining, but because he was confessing. There is a difference, and it changes everything. "When you came into the office this morning," Adrian turned back to her, meeting her eyes, "I felt seen, not as an employer, not as a betrayed husband, but as a man who can't keep holding together something that wants to fall apart." Laura's breath caught. It was dangerous to hear him like this. "I didn't do anything special," she said, trying to steady herself. "Yes, you did," Adrian said softly, stepping closer. "You stayed, when anyone else would have walked away." She lowered her gaze, gripping the fabric of her clothes. "I stayed because you needed someone, not because..." She didn't finish, he noticed. Not because what? He asked, taking one more step. Laura swallowed. Not because I want to get involved in something that isn't mine. The words hung between them. Not false, but not whole either. Adrian studied her, quietly, intensely, like he was trying to see what she wasn't saying. Maybe you already are, he murmured, almost too low for her to hear. Their eyes met, longer than they should have. The air tightened around them. No touch, no promise. Only a connection neither of them wanted to admit was growing. And then the door opened. Helena. She appeared like a violent interruption, a silhouette carved in coldness. Her gaze swept the room quickly. Laura sitting, Adrian standing too close, the air thick, the receipt on the desk. How convenient, she said, leaning on the doorway with a poisoned smile. Adrian stepped back, not guilty but instinctively. Laura stiffened. Helena crossed the room, grabbed the receipt, held it up like evidence in a trial. So this is the great discovery you two were sharing in here. Her voice was too calm to be genuine. You're exchanging secrets now. Enough, Helena, Adrian said, steady. This isn't the moment. Oh, I think it's the perfect moment, she replied, stepping closer. Her eyes cut toward Laura. I see now why you've been so present lately. Why my husband has become so accessible to you, she smirked. Easy to make space for yourself when your job is to slip in quietly, isn't it? Before Laura could speak, Adrian moved, 2 decisive steps, placing himself between them. Laura did nothing, he said, and you know that. Helena laughed, sharp, bitter. Do I, Adrian? Because what I do know is that my housemaid, she pointed at Laura, is more involved in your life than I've been in months. Adrian's jaw tightened. That's because you didn't want to be, he said. Not here, not with me, not in this house. And now you're blaming the only person who had the courage to show me the truth. The silence afterward was brutal. Helena stood motionless, long, dangerous seconds ticking by, until her expression twisted into something Laura had never seen, wounded and vengeful. Very well, she said, voice icy. So this is how it's going to be. You choose her honesty, over me. Adrian didn't answer. He didn't need to, and that silence gave Helena her final weapon. I'll make sure everyone knows exactly what kind of connection you're building with her. A cruel smile. And we'll see who believes the word of a maid. Laura felt her skin turn cold. Helena left, slamming the door with enough force to rattle the bookshelf. The silence left behind wasn't just heavy, it was irreversible. Adrian dragged his hands over his face, exhausted. I'm sorry, he said, turning to her with a softness she didn't expect. I never meant to pull you into this. You didn't, Laura replied firmly. She was already here, I just happened to be standing in the wrong place. I don't know how to protect you from this, Adrian admitted, a truth so sincere it hurt. You don't have to, Laura said immediately. I know how to protect myself. I learned the hard way. He looked at her too long, and in his eyes she saw recognition, understanding, and something being born, quietly, dangerously. Not spoken, not admitted, but no longer avoidable. Adrian turned back to the window, breathing slowly. Laura stood there, feeling the distance between them shrink, not through touch, but through the weight they now shared. And she knew, whether she wished to or not, after that night, neither of them could return to who they were before. Dawn had barely touched the horizon when the mansion slipped into a strange kind of sleeplessness. The fight with Helena had left behind an invisible residue, something you couldn't see but felt. A chill that seeped into the walls, settling even in the corners where light tried to force its way in. Laura left the office quietly and climbed the stairs to her small room on the 2nd floor. The hallway was dark, lit only by the dim glow of a distant lamp near the staircase. Every step echoed, as if the house was listening, judging. When she closed the door, her breath escaped in a long, heavy sigh. She leaned her forehead against the wood for a few seconds, letting the weight of the day press out of her slowly. Helena's words ran circles through her mind. Adrian's expression replayed itself against her will. And underneath everything, a fear she didn't want to name. What if she was stepping into a place she would never get out of unharmed? She sat on the edge of her bed, removed her shoes, and rubbed her hands, still tense from the confrontation. In the weak light from her small bedside lamp, she caught her reflection in the mirror. She didn't see the quiet, invisible housemaid she had trained herself to be. She saw something else, something older. Something she thought she had buried the night she escaped her past. She didn't want to relive any of that. She didn't want to be pulled into a connection that held more danger than hope. But Adrian, there was something about him that broke through her defenses in ways she didn't understand. She tried to push the thought away, showered, put on simple clothes, lay down. But sleep didn't come. The house groaned in unsettling ways. And every soft sound in the corridor made her imagine Helena wandering the halls, a restless ghost feeding on her own anger. For the first time, she feared not only for him, but for herself. She only drifted off when the sky began to lighten, cold morning light filtering through her window. She woke earlier than she wanted. Her head pounded, her body heavy with tension. Still, she dressed and went downstairs. The quiet of early morning was the only part of the day where she felt even slightly in control of her own existence. She prepared Adrian's coffee, prepared Helena's too, though she knew it would likely be met with some sharp remark. She set the table, arranged the cutlery, sliced fruit, each motion grounding her in the ritual she needed to stay whole. Routine was her prayer. Order was her anchor. Halfway through cutting fruit, she heard footsteps, light ones, male ones. She turned. Adrian walked into the kitchen, but he was not the man from the night before, not the man from the office, not the man she'd faced in the middle of the storm with Helena. He looked like someone who had carried the weight of the night alone and was now simply trying to stay upright. "Good morning," he said, with a strange formality that didn't belong to either of them. Laura nodded slightly. "I don't know if I slept," Adrian admitted, sitting on one of the stools. "I think I just waited for the day to arrive." She poured his coffee without asking anything. It wasn't intimacy, it was care, the kind of care he clearly hadn't received in his own home in a very long time. He held the cup but didn't drink. He just stared at the rising steam, as if it held meaning only he could understand. "Helena left," he said finally. "Went to her sister's, or said she did. I don't know anymore when she's telling the truth and when she's performing." Laura listened. "She said she needed space." A short, bitter laugh. "Space? After months of manufacturing distance?" Laura didn't respond, and Adrian appreciated that silence, the silence that wasn't avoidance, wasn't passivity, but understanding. "I said too much yesterday," he murmured after a moment. "I hope I didn't put you in a difficult position." "You didn't," Laura answered softly. "I did," he insisted, "and I don't want to do that again." Laura studied him quietly. Before she could speak, he continued. He searched for a word. "You're the only person in this house who has no interest in manipulating me, or hurting me, or using me in whatever battle Helena thinks she's fighting." "That's not a merit," Laura said gently. "It's just my job." "No," Adrian said, firmness returning. "It's never been just that." The weight of his words hung between them. Laura looked away first. And he noticed. And for the first time, he truly seemed to understand the abyss he was standing at the edge of. He straightened, ran a hand over his face. "Helena will use anything she can against me," he said. "And against you, too." "I know," Laura replied. "I don't want you dragged into this," Adrian added, voice low. "I already have more problems than I can carry. I won't let you pay for something you didn't cause." Laura finally lifted her head. And in that exact moment, Adrian saw something he had overlooked before. Strength. Not the loud, eager kind, but the quiet kind. The kind born from survival. "I know how to protect myself," Laura said. "I'm not weak. I've dealt with people like her before." It was true, and Adrian felt the truth of it hit him in a way he didn't expect. He wanted to protect her, and yet she seemed far more experienced at surviving emotional storms than he was. The morning passed in uneasy silence. Helena didn't return. No messages, no calls, nothing, which made it worse. It meant she was planning. Adrian stayed in the office most of the time. Laura could feel him there, like a presence above her, while she dusted furniture, folded laundry, and tended to the house. There was an invisible thread between them now, a shared weight neither acknowledged out loud. In the afternoon, while she washed clothes in the outdoor sink, she heard the familiar click of the office door opening. Adrian stepped out into the veranda, shirt partially unbuttoned, looking distant and tired. "Laura," he called. She turned off the machine, wiped her hands, walked toward him. "I need," he hesitated, "some air. Would you walk with me in the garden? Just for a few minutes." The request was simple, but not simple at all, not appropriate, not professional, not safe. But Laura saw something in his eyes, not desire, not pursuit, not danger, loneliness, a loneliness that echoed her own. So she nodded. The garden was quiet. The smell of damp grass rose heavily from the ground. The breeze lifted a few strands of her hair, which she tucked behind her ear without noticing Adrian watching. They walked side by side, not touching, not crossing lines, and yet close enough to feel the rhythm of each other's breathing. "I don't know if there's still a marriage left," Adrian said, looking at the horizon, "and I don't know if it's worth trying to save something that might already be dead." Laura kept her eyes on the stones beneath her feet. "Sometimes," she said, choosing the words slowly, "we hold on to things that should have ended long ago, just because we're afraid of the emptiness that comes after." He stopped walking. She took 2 steps before she realized. When she turned, he was looking at her in a way she didn't know how to interpret, a mixture of recognition, impact, and something like gratitude. "You speak like someone who's lived that," he said quietly. Her body stiffened. "I have," she replied. No details. He sensed the depth of what she wasn't saying, but he didn't push. "What was done to you?" he asked softly. Laura looked away, breathing deeper. Nothing that matters now. But it mattered, deeply, more than she wanted him to know. "It matters to me," Adrian said. Her throat tightened. "I'm not ready for that kind of conversation," she whispered. He nodded, accepting it. "That's all right. I'm not trying to cross any lines. I just want you to know, you're not alone." Dangerous words, not because of meaning, but because of impact. "I'm used to being alone," she said. "Even so," Adrian murmured, "you don't have to stay that way." The silence that followed was different from all their earlier ones. Thicker, warmer, riskier. But full of something neither expected, mutual care. The kind that wasn't romantic but also wasn't neutral. On the way back, Adrian tripped slightly on a stone. Laura reached out instinctively, a reflex. Her hand closed around his arm. A brief touch, almost nothing, but too real. They froze. Adrian looked at where her hand held him, then looked at her. Laura slowly let go, as if releasing him demanded more restraint than touching him had. "Sorry," she whispered. "You don't need to apologize," he said softly, still watching her like the world had shifted an inch. The tension between them was stronger now, invisible, emotional, undeniable. "I should get back to work," Laura said, breaking eye contact before he could break hers. He nodded slowly, almost reluctantly. "Thank you for walking with me." She gave a small nod and headed back into the house. But as she walked away, she felt the echo of that small touch spreading through her body, something she couldn't control, something that could become a mistake, or salvation, or both. Adrian stayed in the garden for a long time, watching the path as if it held answers. But he knew the truth was elsewhere, in the touch they shared, in the silence they breathed, in what they were becoming, despite themselves. Something was forming, something that could destroy everything, or build something that had never been allowed to exist, and for the first time since they met, both understood, without speaking. They were no longer just employer and housemaid, and the price for that would come soon. Night fell early that day, as if the sky were eager to cover the mansion and hide whatever was unraveling inside its walls. The darkness wasn't just outside. It lived in the hallways, in the furniture, in the restrained gestures, in the hesitant footsteps. Laura felt it almost physically, as if every corner of the house held a breath waiting to be released. After the walk in the garden, she spent the rest of the afternoon avoiding Adrian, not out of lack of desire, because that would have been easier to admit, and that was precisely why she feared it, but because any unnecessary proximity could be misinterpreted. Especially in a house now split between what still existed and what had died long ago. Even so, Adrian seemed to appear whenever she turned, sometimes in the hallway, sometimes in the living room, sometimes simply watching her from a distance, as if he wanted to say something but stopped himself at the last second. There was something held between them, something both of them tried to deny, and precisely because it was denied, it grew stronger. Souestir de ventre, the house grew even quieter when Helena returned. The front door opened with a controlled force, quiet, but enough to ripple through the mansion like an alarm. Laura, who was finishing the dining room, lifted her head instantly. Helena stepped inside, no hurry, no fear, no attempt to hide the venom she carried in her too large handbag. Her perfume reached the room a second before her voice did. "You two managed to ruin my day," she said, dropping the bag on the table without glancing at Laura. "So I thought it was only fair to come back and finish what was left undone." Laura didn't move. She held the cleaning cloth as if it were a thin shield. Helena walked toward her, slow, deliberate. "Where is my husband?" she asked, her eyes cold and bright with something sharper than irritation. "In the office," Laura answered, steadying her breath so her fear wouldn't show. Helena smiled. A slow, poisonous curl of the lips. "Perfect, I'll speak to him." She paused, adding in a tone meant to cut, "Don't go far. I might need you." Laura said nothing. Helena didn't expect her to. She climbed the stairs, heels striking the wood, and Laura remained there, trying to understand just how violent the storm would be. She finished her task, though her mind was nowhere near it. Then she heard it, the office door slamming shut, followed by Helena's voice, sharp, slicing, unmistakable. The mansion held its breath again. Laura went upstairs minutes later, not out of curiosity, but because she needed to organize the linens in the hallway closet, and that, at least on paper, justified her presence. When she reached the upper floor, she sensed the heaviness around the office, a dense silence, the kind that only exists when someone is trying to swallow their own shouts. She walked quietly over the carpet, moving with the care of someone crossing a line she had no business approaching. While folding towels, she heard Helena. "I won't be humiliated by you, Adrian. Not by you, and especially not by her." The word hit Laura like a thrown object. Adrian's voice came next, low, firm. "She's not humiliating you. You're doing that yourself, through your own choices." A tense silence, then footsteps. A thud. She couldn't tell if Helena had knocked something over or struck her hand against a surface. Then Helena's voice again. "You've lost your mind. You're blind. Can't you see how she looks at you? Like she finally found an opportunity?" Laura's heart thudded painfully. Her fingers tightened around the fabric in her hands. Adrian's reply came sharp and steady. "Enough, Helena. I'm not discussing Laura with you." "Oh, then you want to discuss what?" Helena spat. "Your incompetence. The way you let this marriage die because you were too busy pretending to be perfect. Or maybe you want to talk about your fascination with any woman who offers a little silence and obedience." Laura closed her eyes, gripping the towel so hard her knuckles whitened. That last sentence hit deeper than it should have, not because it was true, but because it had been crafted to wound. More muffled sounds, a sudden movement. Then, the office door flew open. Laura froze. Helena stormed out, face flushed, eyes bright with fury. She spotted Laura immediately and stopped. "You," she said, breathing hard, "still here." It wasn't a question. It was a threat. Laura opened her mouth, but before she could speak, Adrian appeared behind Helena, one hand on the door, looking as exhausted as a man crushed from the inside. "Helena, go rest," he said, voice heavy. "We're done." Helena looked at him, then looked at Laura, and smiled, a smile so cruel it barely looked human. "Don't worry," she told Laura softly. "I'm not finished with you." Then she descended the stairs slowly, savoring the poison she left behind. Laura remained frozen. The silence between her and Adrian felt like a sharp line dividing the world. He kept his hand on the doorknob, breathing slowly, trying to reclaim the composure Helena had tried to rip from him. Then he looked at Laura, with a kind of care that didn't match the chaos. "Come with me," he said quietly. "I don't want you exposed out here." She hesitated but followed. He closed the office door behind them, not like a man seeking privacy for something forbidden, but like a man protecting someone who never asked to be in the line of fire. Laura sat on the sofa automatically, because her legs seemed unsure of their purpose after the intensity in the hallway. Adrian walked toward her, slow, restrained, and took the other end of the sofa. He didn't come close. Didn't touch, but even then, the space between them felt charged. He began, then stopped, ran a hand through his hair. "She's losing control, and when she does, she tries to take everything down with her." "I noticed," Laura said quietly. "I don't want you caught in this," he insisted. "I don't want her hurting you, or inventing things, or twisting the truth. I can't let—" Laura shook her head gently. "It's not up to you," she said. "People like her destroy what they can't understand. I know how to handle this kind of situation." He looked at her for too long. Something flickered in his eyes, concern, guilt, or something deeper. "You shouldn't have to handle it," Adrian murmured. "But I am handling it," she said, "and I'm fine." He shook his head almost imperceptibly, but didn't argue. Silence settled between them again, not empty, not cold, but thick with everything they weren't saying. "She's going to come back," he said eventually, "and she'll come back worse." "I know." Their eyes met, and in that shared look there was a mutual recognition. They were on the same side now, not by choice, by consequence. Adrian leaned forward, elbows on his knees, head bowed. "I don't know how this ends." Laura answered softly, "Neither do I." He lifted his gaze slowly. Their eyes met in that narrow line where duty, pain, tension, and something else touched. "You're not alone," she said finally. The words fell between them with the exact weight they carried. Not a promise, not a confession, not an invitation, a truth. And that truth made Adrian close his eyes briefly, as if saving a moment he knew shouldn't exist. Rain began tapping against the window, wind pushed against the glass, and the whole house seemed to rearrange itself around the sound. Adrian opened his eyes, breathed deeply, and said, "Thank you, Fatih, for not leaving today." Laura dropped her gaze. "I didn't leave because—" She hesitated, then finished. "Someone had to stay." Adrian stood, walked to the window, watching the rain slide down the glass. Laura remained where she was, hands clasped tightly, trying to contain the wave rising inside her. Something between them was growing, slow, deep, silent, and impossible to retreat from. They both knew, even if they never said it. And it was in that exact moment, when every outside sound faded for a heartbeat, that Laura finally understood. The storm wasn't beginning. She was already standing in the middle of it. The storm didn't arrive quietly. It advanced through the night with the force of something that didn't need to be announced. The wind howled. The trees outside bent under their own weight, as if bracing for impact. Inside the mansion, the atmosphere was no different. The air felt charged, electric, full of something about to break. Laura came down the stairs just before 9. She had finished the last of the household tasks, though she wasn't sure why she bothered. Rest was impossible in that house. Not tonight. Not with tension thickening the air like humidity before lightning strikes. When she stepped into the main living room, she saw him. Adrian stood in front of the unlit fireplace, arms crossed, shirt open halfway down his chest. the dim light from the lamp brushing across his face. There was something in his posture, vulnerability, yes, but also a quiet resolve, as if he were finally preparing to confront something that had been chasing him for a long time. He lifted his eyes when he heard her. "I thought you'd already gone to sleep," he said, his voice low, rough with exhaustion. "I couldn't," Laura replied. "The house feels strange tonight." "It's not the house," he said. "It's her." Laura didn't pretend otherwise. "She's here?" she asked. He shook his head. "Not yet. But she'll come back. And I don't know what state she'll be in. She always returns when she feels she's losing control. And this time," he exhaled slowly, bracing himself against the mantel, "I don't know which lines she intends to cross." Laura took a small step closer without realizing it. "Adrian," she said softly, "you're not alone in this." He turned toward her slowly. The look in his eyes wasn't a master speaking to an employee, wasn't a man looking for rescue. It was simply the look of someone breaking and trying desperately not to. "Don't say that," he whispered, "because it makes everything harder." She frowned slightly. "Harder? Why?" He ran a hand through his hair, the gesture restless, as if struggling to keep a hold on himself. "Because He stopped. Laura waited. The silence between them said more than his unfinished sentence. "Because you what?" She pressed gently. He stepped away from the fireplace, paced, then turned to face her again. "Because I shouldn't feel anything for you," he said finally, "and yet I do." Laura didn't move. Her heartbeat wasn't surprised. It was confirming something she had been trying not to acknowledge. It changed the room. It changed the air. It changed everything. She inhaled slowly. "You can't feel that," she said. "You shouldn't." "I know," Adrian answered, taking a few steps toward her. "But I also know I'm not lying." Laura retreated half a step, not out of fear of him, but fear of herself. "This can't happen," she said quietly. "Not now, not like this. Look at what's happening to your life, to your home." "That's exactly why," he murmured. "I can't stop it." The air tightened until it seemed difficult to breathe. Laura fought the urge to speak, to soothe, to distance herself. She fought the impulse inside her, an impulse that had been building since she'd found him broken on the office floor. "I'm not the solution to what you're facing," she whispered. "I'm not asking you to be," he replied. He stepped closer, not enough to touch, not enough to cage her, simply enough to be felt. "Laura," he said softly, "you're the only person who has looked me in the eyes since all of this began, the only one who didn't try to use my vulnerability, the only one who stayed." "I didn't stay for you," she said firmly. "I stayed because it was the right thing to do." "That's the problem," he murmured, with a faint, aching smile. "You always do the right thing. And that affects me more than it should." Heat, dangerous, quiet, rose inside her. "Adrian, this is wrong." "Maybe," he said, stepping closer still. "But it's true." She opened her mouth to speak, but the front door slammed open with a force that shook the entire house. Adrian spun, Laura froze, and Helena appeared, not quietly, not weak, not ashamed. She entered the room like someone arriving to destroy whatever remained and leave the ruins exposed. Her coat was soaked with rain. Mascara smeared under her eyes. Her gaze locked instantly onto the two of them, too close, too aware, too unhidden. A silence fell like a physical blow. Helena dropped her handbag onto the floor with a thud. "So this is it," she said, her voice stripped of artifice. "This is what I needed to see." Adrian stepped forward. "Helena, don't—" "Shut up," she snapped. "I don't want your explanation. I want hers." She walked toward Laura, slow, precise, deliberate. Her eyes dragged across Laura like a blade. "Did you get what you wanted?" she asked coldly. "Attention? Space? The same thing all of you get when you pretend to be quiet, careful, innocent?" Laura steadied her breath. "I'm not doing anything," she said. "You're not?" Helena laughed, silent, bitter. "You're where you shouldn't be, touching what isn't yours, trying to steal what never belonged to you. Adrian stepped forward. That's enough, Helena. No, Helena barked. Not until I say what needs to be said. She faced Adrian, eyes wild. You want the truth? She wants you, she always has. And you, her voice cracked. You let her. Stop, Adrian said more firmly. No, she screamed. You betrayed me, not with your hands, not with your mouth, but here. She jabbed a finger against his chest. With everything you are. Laura felt her throat tighten. It wasn't true. Adrian knew it. Helena knew it. But the venom still landed. Helena turned back to Laura, leaning in close. I told you I'd finish this, she whispered. And I will. Adrian grabbed Helena's wrist, not violently but firmly enough to halt her. You're not laying a hand on her, he said, voice quiet and terrifying. Helena froze. And then everything happened at once. She jerked her arm, lost her balance on the rug, reached out, hit the side table. A glass vase crashed to the floor, shattering across the wood in an explosion of sound. Laura rushed forward on instinct. Adrian did too. They met in the same spot, too close, too connected, too undeniable, and Helena saw it. That was enough. She stepped back, her breathing sharp, her eyes bright with triumph and devastation. I've got what I need, she said. Adrian frowned. What are you talking about? Helena lifted her phone. A recording, a grainy, chaotic video, showing Adrian grabbing her wrist, showing Laura rushing toward him. Showing exactly what Helena needed to twist the narrative. Not truth, not context, just proof for the story she wanted to sell. What am I talking about? Helena repeated, almost smiling. Evidence. She turned toward the door. People love stories like this, Adrian. The betrayed wife, the insinuating maid, the weak husband. Doesn't matter what's true, matters what looks true. Laura felt her stomach drop. Adrian went pale. You wouldn't do that, he said, almost pleading. Helena paused, turned, gave a slow, cruel look. Of course I would. Then she walked out and slammed the door behind her. Silence swallowed the room. Adrian ran his hands through his hair, devastated. Laura felt her knees weaken. He turned to her, eyes full of guilt he couldn't hide. I promised I wouldn't let you get hurt because of me, he said, voice breaking. And I failed. Laura took a step forward, didn't touch him, but looked directly at him. It's not your fault, she whispered. It is, he said softly. And then, with the kind of honesty that destroys and heals at the same time, because I let you get too close. Laura's breath faltered. She closed her eyes and understood, finally, what existed between them, even without a touch, without a kiss, without a confession, was real. Helena had seen it, and she had turned it into a weapon. The storm had a name, it had a target, and it was already in motion. Nothing would ever go back to the way it was. Helena left the mansion as if she weren't simply walking out on a marriage, but abandoning the aftermath of an explosion, one that was only now beginning to spread. The door slammed behind her, shaking the glass, and the echo rolled through the main hall, climbing the walls like a warning. Nothing in that house would remain quiet anymore. Outside, the storm answered in kind. Lightning split the sky in violent streaks, and gusts of wind pushed the curtains inward, as if trying to drag the room into the chaos outside. Laura stood in the middle of the living room, breathing slowly, trying to understand what had just happened. Her entire body trembled, not from fear, not from guilt, but from something far more dangerous, a collision of injustice and survival instinct. Adrian looked as if something had been torn out of him. He paced the room like a man searching for steady ground, running his hands through his hair over his face, breathing deeply but gaining no clarity. I gave her everything, he murmured finally, stopping at the window, staring at the rain, slashing against the glass. And she'll use it against me, against us. That last word struck Laura squarely in the chest. Us. He hadn't meant to say it, but it had been true. She stepped toward him carefully, every move measured, not out of fear of him, but fear of her own emotions. Adrian, she whispered. He turned his head slowly, his eyes carrying shock, defeat, and something she didn't dare name. Laura searched for words, any words, but nothing was strong enough to undo what was coming. Nothing could stop Helena from turning that recording into a weapon. Still, she tried. "There's no evidence of anything," she said gently. She recorded a single moment, a gesture taken out of context. All it shows is a husband stopping his wife from crossing a line. Adrian let out a sharp, humorless laugh. "You think she cares about context?" he asked. "Helena wants destruction. That's enough. And she knows exactly how to make people believe whatever version she chooses." Laura said nothing, because he was right. After several long seconds, Adrian turned fully toward her. His expression was so grave it made her stomach tighten. "I never should have let you," he paused, searching for the word, "be part of this." "I'm not part of anything," Laura replied. "This happened to me, but not because I chose it." Adrian closed his eyes briefly, as if her honesty had landed exactly where he hurt most. "You don't understand," he murmured. "The way she thinks, the way she acts. She won't rest until she turns everything into a weapon. She'll come after you, after your dignity, after your history. She'll twist it all until it looks like you were the cause of everything." Laura held her posture steady, though her heart raced. "I've survived worse people," she said quietly. "I'm not afraid of her." Adrian opened his eyes and met hers. In that instant, he understood something he'd never truly seen. She was stronger than he was. Not by arrogance, not by power, but by endurance, the kind forged through wounds he never even imagined. For a moment he said nothing, just looked at her, as if trying to understand how someone so quiet, so invisible to the world, could carry a silent courage more formidable than anything he'd ever had. They stood there, close, but not touching. Outside, the storm began to ease. Inside, the tension only grew heavier. "I can't let her destroy you," Adrian said finally. "You can't stop her either," Laura replied. "She'll do whatever she wants. She'll invent whatever she needs." "Then I'll stop her from having a reason," he said. Laura frowned. "A reason?" Adrian took a breath, one that looked like it hurt him. "You need to leave," he said quietly. "At least for now. I don't want—" His voice cracked just slightly. "I don't want you here when she comes back. I don't want you to be her target. She'll choose someone to blame, and I won't let it be you." It hit her like cold water. "Leave?" Laura repeated, barely recognizing her own voice. He nodded slowly. "Not because I want you to," he said, stepping closer, "but because it's the only way to protect you." Laura lowered her eyes. Her breath grew unsteady. Something inside her cracked, not dramatically but deeply, not because of the request itself, but because of everything it meant. "So that's it," she whispered. "I become the problem, and I have to be removed so things don't get worse." "No," Adrian said quickly, taking another step forward. "You're not the problem. She is. I am. The marriage is. Everything is. But not you." "Then why am I the one who has to go?" she asked, lifting her eyes to his. He hesitated, and that hesitation hurt more than an answer, because Laura understood. He was afraid for her, afraid of the accusations, afraid of admitting what he couldn't admit. "Because if you stay," he said softly, "I won't be able to keep my distance. Not after everything that happened today." Her chest tightened so sharply she had to inhale twice. She wanted to speak, wanted to retreat, wanted to step forward, wanted to exist without fear, but nothing came out. Adrian stepped closer again, close enough for her to hear his breathing. Slow, unsteady, conflicted. "And I can't," he continued, voice barely above a whisper, "put you at the center of my chaos. I can't let you carry a weight that belongs to me." Laura swallowed. "I'm not carrying anything I didn't choose to carry," she said. "No," Adrian said quietly. "You're carrying it because I allowed it, and that's unfair." The silence between them reached its sharpest point. Adrian lifted a hand, not to touch her but to raise it to her face, stopping just short of her skin. That inch of distance felt like the last fragile boundary between them. "I need you to go," he whispered, "before I do something that makes it impossible for you to stay." The sentence burned the air between them. Laura felt something rise in her throat, anger, pain, understanding. "I never asked," she began. "I know you didn't," he said softly. And in that inch of space, just that inch, Laura understood something fully for the first time. What existed between them was real, born in silence, fed by pain, and impossible to erase. She exhaled. "I'll go," she said. Adrian closed his eyes as if the words had pierced him. "Thank you," he whispered, but there was no gratitude in his tone. Laura stepped back, then again. Every inch of distance felt like something being torn from her. Upstairs, she packed the few belongings she had with mechanical hands, moving as if detaching herself from the process would make it hurt less. When she came down, Adrian was waiting by the door, not to stop her, not to ask for forgiveness, not to reach for her, but because he needed to witness her leaving. They stood facing each other without the buffer of excuses or roles or silence. Laura finally said, "Thank you." "For what?" he asked, voice hollow. "For seeing me." His eyes closed once slowly, and then he answered, "You were the only one who ever did." The sentence settled between them, heavy with everything they hadn't lived. Laura opened the door. Cold wind entered. Rain kept falling. She gave him one last look, not a sad one, but full of all the words she would never say. And then she stepped outside. The door closed behind her. No slam, no anger, just the unavoidable sound of something that never should have begun, but still changed them forever.